Now, Paul, as we know, the defined benefit plan functions very differently from a defined contribution plan like your IRAs or your 401ks, especially when you consider that the DB plan can actually become overfunded. Can you give a little bit of insight on why front loading or max funding a DB plan can result in an overfunded plan and some of the consequences of having an overfunded plan?
Yeah, this actually happens more often than we would like, where people kind of front load a plan and they're under the assumption that they continue to do that large amount, and the reality is, excuse me, they're not. They certainly just can't continue to do that front loaded amount over a long period of time. It goes back to sort of the definition of a defined contribution plan and a defined benefit plan. Defined contribution, there's a set amount that can go in every year. And with the defined benefit plan, you've got a set amount at retirement. And so you're making contributions to go towards that goal. So there's really no set amounts that you can do every year. There's really no maximums and things like that. I mean, there are, but not necessarily written in stone. So the reality is you're always dealing with a moving target. And what happens a lot is people come to us, and we see this on the sales side. Hey, I want to max this out. I want to get in as much as I want. Great, client. You can do 100 grand or whatever. No, I want to do more. Can I get 150? And let's assume the answer is yes. Okay. So we get 150 in. Well, they might be able to get 150 in and front load a plan or pull in prior service, a few things that we can do to get more in. But that doesn't mean that they're always going to be able to do 150,000 a year. If we think their target, their year one is 100 and they want to get more in, all they're doing is just pulling it from the future, right? Every dollar you put in today is one less dollar that you can do in the future. So, what you'll find sometimes is people put in 150 and the next year we say, okay, your maximum is 100. Let's just say, well, wait a minute. I don't understand. Last year I was able to put 150 in. Why is that? Well, you front loaded it and all that. A lot of it comes back to sort of education, making sure if people want to get in a lot, that they understand the rules for the plans and how they actually work. Sometimes they've come to us through their financial advisor or CPA, and often their CPA hasn't maybe given them a lot of, or their financial advisor maybe doesn't understand the plan as well as they should and isn't giving them that advice. They're relying more on the financial advisor than us. And then it comes to a problem a year or two down the road where there's funding. So moral of the story is, in many situations, you can front load a plan, but that's just getting more in. That's going to lead to lower contributions down the road. Remember, these are not defined contribution plans. There's not a set amount every year. It's going to go up and down as you fund it. And, while front loading a plan and max funding can make a lot of sense, especially if you're in a year where you got some really, really high income, especially if you've got a business that's volatile, you're a real estate agent, you made $1 million this year, let's get it in because we don't know what the next year is. They can be more challenging for a physician or someone who has consistently high income because they consistently want those good contributions and they're not able to get that based on front loading. So again, a lot of it just gets back to education and communicating that with the client. But certainly there are pitfalls associated with front loading any sort of defined benefit plan structure.
Yep, absolutely. And I'm glad you mentioned that. There's different kind of scenarios where front loading or max funding a plan could make sense. It's more of kind of a strategy game in certain situations. Like you said, if a business owner has high amounts of income in a given year, maybe it does make sense to front load or max fund, in that given year. And then maybe, income comes down in a future year. So in that situation, it could make sense. But a lot of our clients, they're making steady amounts of high income. So in that situation, maybe a front load or max fund in that given year doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah. The key ingredient for them to understand is that, these are permanent plan designs. What you fund one year will affect the subsequent year. In fact, investment returns will affect that at all. So it's one constant kind of juggling act where you're kind of moving towards this final defined benefit. And, like life, it's going to ebb and flow. Some years will be better than others. Some years you're going to have better returns than others, but it's just something that people should make sure that they're educated. And if they want to front load a plan, typically they can do it. But again, that opens them up for lower funding down the road. So the key thing, like I said, education and communication.
Absolutely. That makes sense. And I think that's very helpful information. Thanks, Paul.